Hello, welcome to the now possibly Romans 118 show or media show. It's good to be back with you. Doing a little rebranding if you guys can see it. I don't know if it's delayed, but I'm trying to rebrand. Got some cool pictures, hopefully some cool AI pictures because I listened to the Elite Human Capital guy. I'm trying to use AI, see what it can do, see what's possible. So we got some new pictures. We've got a new title, a new name, maybe a new channel name in the future. So let me know if you like it or not. I think it's more churchy, it's more biblical. It's less focused on me, so maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. I forgot to turn this light off, but hopefully it's all right. Maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. Let me know what you think of that. We got a couple topics today. Nothing too crazy. Before we get into that, I think that's it. Just a little rebranding. Go read Romans 118. I really enjoy it. I was thinking about doing John 8, something from that about the truth, something along those lines, but I settled on Romans 118, a good one. Romans 1 is just good. Romans is good. They're all good. But Romans 118 is pretty peak, I think. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the photo, the AI photo. Let me know how you feel about that. I know AI is a controversial thing right now, but let me know. I'm also a little sick today, feeling under the weather. So this is a sick episode, but the voice is still good. So hopefully we're all right. So our two topics today. I first want to get into marriage as vocation. Talk about that a little bit. That's more of a selfish thing for me. And hopefully it helps you. If there's any women besides my family that watches this, I can get your feedback on that as well. My thoughts. And then the other thing I want to talk about is continuing fulfillment of all desire, talking about detachment and talking about what detachment is for, because we don't want to end in detachment. We want to be detached for the sake of other purposes. You don't want to just be empty like a Buddhist. You want to be empty so you can be filled with other things, great things, good things, holy things. So that's the show today. We'll get right into it. So first, we are talking about marriage as a vocation. So it seems like everyone understands to a more or less extent that the priesthood, religious life are vocations in the sense that it is a calling and it's calling you out of just the regular trajectory that you're in. You could plod along and just do the things as a single man, a single woman, an individual, and not enter into something very specific and radical. But if the Lord's calling you to priesthood, religious life, it is a vocation. It's calling you into that specific thing. And it is very guarded. It has very clear boundaries. It has a clear mission. And that is the vocation of the priesthood. You're ministering to people. You're usually part of a parish or you're part of a order. You're doing specific ministries that the church has called you to. You're taking vows. You're taking vows of poverty, chastity, obedience. These things iron out a very specific way of life for you. So that's those vocations. So most people understand that. It is more or less understood. I feel, and this is just my opinion. I'm offering a lot of my opinions today. My opinion is that at least the church that I've experienced, the Catholic Church in America, doesn't even really put out there the uniqueness, the outlying character of the priesthood, and nor does it even preach like kids start thinking about being a priest, being a religious when you're young. And I was talking about yesterday, it's like you need to start thinking about that when you're 12, 13. I know priests had thought about it even before that. I had one priest that told me when he was 8, our Lord appeared to him. I think it was our Lord, might have been Our Lady, appeared to him and told him to be a priest, and he did. So that was when he was 8 years old. So even though the church in America, at least in my experience, is maybe not good at telling kids and teenagers that, I'm telling you that, so we can wrestle with that if you need to. But I want to talk about the vocation of marriage. So marriage is also a vocation. So take some of those characteristics from priesthood, religious life, and now apply them to marriage. And what I mean is the general outline of what a vocation is. It is a calling out into a specific way of life. That is what marriage is. You are being called to bind yourself to one person, a husband or a wife, and you are going to take on specific roles in that vocation. It has very specific bounds, same as priesthood, same as religious life. The boundaries are different, but it has specific boundaries. It has specific rules. You also take a form of vows, these vows surrounding the marital bond. It limits you, same as the vocation of the priesthood, religious life. The married vocation limits you. And this is, and I'll get into the single life later, but it's calling you into something very specific. And I think the best, I'm going to go off on my own tangents to saying my opinion, but if you want like church teaching facts, I feel like you really need to read Casti Connubii. Casti Connubii is the church document, as far as I'm aware, the only one that really irons out all of marriage. It's an encyclical by Pius XI on marriage, on chaste wedlock. So if you want just the church's view on that, I would read that, but I'm going to give you my views. Because for myself, and this is going to seem very personal to a lot of people, but to some people, but for me, as I'm in the dating people and different things, there is not an understanding with the men or the women that this is a specific vocation that is going to force you to die to selfish ambition, maybe not even selfish, things that you want to do for God and the church even, but are not supportive of the marriage vocation. So if you feel called to the marriage vocation, it's going to ask you to give up things that maybe you were doing before for the sake of the vocation. The same thing with the priesthood, religious life. Obviously, it's clear to see with that because we've been talking about that for a very long time. But holiness in marriage is also going to ask you of that. And it's going to ask it of men and women. I think the conversation is ramping up today, thanks really in the Catholic space to Timothy Gordon, about what it specifically looks like for women. But this is going to be the same for men too. Men will have to change the way they live, and there will be specific boundaries for both sexes as they enter into the marriage vocation. For women, I think it's more clear to see. Women, you might be working before that. You might have had career aspirations before that, which I don't think is great, but that's a whole different thing. I mean, it's not a whole different thing. I think if you're called to marriage, the career aspirations that should take a back seat. You can kind of be shooting for something before you're married, but once you've found the guy, it's like, what do we that's your vocation. And if you get married, you shouldn't have a career as a woman. Even the man will be affected by this, because if he has a career that is not allowing him to be a husband or a father, he needs to do his best to adjust and to maneuver so he can have that career, that job that allows him to do that. Because it is, to a certain extent, you want to have a career that is, I'm like all over the place right now, but let's start with the wife and then we'll go to the husband. So for the wife, you are being called to be a wife, obviously. A wife is being called to be a wife. So there are specific outlines for that. The obvious ones are like, you're only going to be with this one man in this very intimate relationship till death. Okay, that's obvious. But there are other things that you are now going to be the ruler of the house. You're expected to be at home. You're expected to take care of those housely duties. You're not expected to be going out and about working, making money, doing all these social calls and different things like that, out at the club, maybe obvious things. You're not going to be expected to do that. You have a very specific role. And these are things that are not going to be asked of necessarily of a single woman. So when people tell me like, I'm a woman and I want to be a lawyer and I'm Catholic, I respond in a way that's like, you could do that. Women have the ability maybe to be a lawyer, but are you called to a vocation? Because if you're called to marriage and if you're called to religious life, or for the women wouldn't be priesthood, you're not going to be a lawyer. Like I don't even know if you can do lawyer practice in religious life, but for the sake of argument, we'll just say you're not going to be called to be a lawyer. That is not your vocation. It's not a part of the vocation of wife. Doesn't mean you can't do it. I think women get very insulted, like, "Oh, I have the ability to." It's like, maybe you do, maybe you don't. That's not what we're saying. I'm saying that you're entering into a specific vocation that is going to trump that career. Say if you were a judge and you decide to become a nun, you're not going to be judging in the professional sense anymore. You're going to be asked to give that up. Same thing with marriage in a different way, but you're still going to be asked to give that up. And then obviously you're going to be asked to be a caretaker for children, educate the children, support your husband in what he's doing. Those are some of the less controversial things as a wife. But your life is going to change unless you're doing some sort of nannying or taking care of your younger siblings at home with your parents, which would be a similar lifestyle. But if you're out in a career, you're in college, you're traveling a lot, you're partying a lot, all these different things, which you shouldn't really be partying a lot, but just to throw stuff out there, your life is going to radically change. You're not going to be, that is not part of the vocation that you're choosing or that you feel called to, that God is choosing you for. This is a very real thing. And this is a part of the whole feminist explosion that has happened in the West, different measurements of when it started. But one of the things is the total war against the vocation of marriage, especially for the woman. So we need to be aware of this. And I know there's probably going to be some women out there that hate the idea of this. Catholic women, Catholic Christian women are super feminists most of the time. They don't want to do the cooking and cleaning. They don't want to stay at home. They want to be big boss with the big pants. They want to make all the money. They want to do all the things. They want to travel everywhere. It's not what you're being asked to do if you go into the vocation of marriage. If you're a woman and you're like, I just want to travel and I want to work. I don't, even in the Christian vocation in general, I don't think that's a smart idea. That probably doesn't align unless it's for a specific purpose, the traveling and stuff. But if you really want to do that, just don't get married. And people aren't going to like that, but I really think that's the way to go. And there are women that are lay that just don't get married. It happens very often, actually. And with men too, it happens often. So I'm not trying to put the women down. It's just the reality of the situation. And then with the men too, it's gonna be appear less radical because the man still has to have a career. That's the big thing there. The women want the career too. The men will have to have a career, but before he's married, he can be working 100 hours a week and he has no responsibility to a woman at home, to a wife. That will have to change when he gets married because now he has a vocation, a specific boundary and outline. He owes a certain amount of time to his wife, in that unitive and that procreative and just that relational part of the vocation. So, he's high-powered lawyer. He's working 100 hours a week, making $1 million a year. If that's going to affect the marriage, he's going to have to back out of that a little bit. Still be a lawyer, obviously, but maybe you're not going for that partner. You're not doing, the extra overtime to make the boss like you, different things like that. And this goes for all. I'm using lawyer a lot because of that elite human capital thing is always talking about lawyers. But in any job, you're going to be a little less ambitious. So I even tell guys who, really want to be these successful, powerful people. I tell them maybe you're not going to get married young. Maybe you're going to have to wait because it's probably not going to work well. You being this high powered dude and you want to have a wife and kids. The kids too, I think people want to debate this, but the father owes time to his kids too, to raise them in the faith, to make sure they're virtuous, to guide them on the right path for their life, for their vocations. So you will have to give up something too. It's just the difference. The women don't like it because they got to stay at home. The guy still is out in the world providing. So the main point here is that marriage is a vocation. It's very specific. It's different than the vocation of priesthood, religious life, but it is a vocation still. So you have things that have to be in place. There's kind of a rigmarole, a structure that is built that is part of the vocation. So, I've been dating in person, online, Catholics exclusively. And I'm finding this a lot where it's the women don't like that idea. There's women that have PhDs, and I don't have a PhD. And I think for them, that's difficult for them. They want a family, but they're the PhD person. They went through a lot of school. They got the high powered job. They don't want to give that up. And so it's going to have to give. You're going to stay single. You're going to do your career. You're going to have to humble yourself. You're smart. You got that PhD, but the vocation of marriage is not calling you to work in that space, work in a workplace, work for money. It's going to ask you to work at home, work and provide that for your family. Be a mother, be the heart of the home, as Pius XI would say. So I think that's all I want to say. I'm like kind of ranting now, but hopefully that makes sense. That's my little spiel on the marriage vocation. And again, read Pius XI's Casti Connubii on the Christian marriage, on chaste wedlock. It is the numero uno on this. So that's that. And then the next topic I wanted to get into was detachment. So we were talking about detachment. I talked about one thing with detachment, which was money and possessions. There's other topics that he talks about in here in terms of detachment, which he includes pride, detached from pride, and he includes sensual pleasure. Sensual pleasure is going to be sexual pleasure, and then it's also going to be food and drink. So taste, I guess, would be the pleasure. Those are going to be your two strongest sensual pleasures that you'll have to detach from. Doesn't mean you don't enjoy them. It means you can detach. You're not bound to them. They're not an idol to you. You're not doing wicked things for those two things. Gluttony, lust, obviously. So, and then there's other things too that you can think of that you need to detach from. Vanity, big one. I'm looking so pretty and stuff. A big one nowadays, I think, would probably be fame. You got the social media. Oh, with the marriage vocation, with the women, I think women got to get rid of the social media. I think men too, to the extent that they don't need it, but they're going to have to be more in the world. We got all these women on social media. I don't think it's good. I think it's a very bad idea. That's not a teaching of the church. It's a really bad idea. And I'd be welcome to debate that with someone. It's atrocious, honestly. I mean, we can talk about OnlyFans. Oh my goodness. Like every woman that doesn't have morals is going to be a porn star at this point now. Anyway, that's besides the point. Detachment, you're detaching from those things. But you're not just detaching from those things for the sake of nothingness, where it's just like you're just sitting there meditating and you don't desire anything, or you're not inordinately attached to anything. That's not why you're doing it. You're doing it so you can grow virtue, growing in the love of Christ. I would describe it as growing in the joy of doing what is right and good and just. So the joy in temperance, which is a virtue, and the virtue itself implies the joy. When you're truly virtuous, you enjoy doing the right thing. It's pleasing to you. It's easy to you. And people have argued this. Different philosophers have argued this. This is how I see it, though. The truly virtuous man, he has so detached himself and so trained himself in discipline and in virtue that when he does the virtuous thing, it's pleasing to him. You rejoice in what is good and right. That's where we want to be. So that's why I'm always harping on the virtues. That's the goal with detachment. It's not just to be like, Zen Buddhist, I need nothing. It's for the positive. And I think temperance is a good example. It's like with food, eating the right amount of food is actually pleasurable to you. You don't want to eat too little. You don't want to eat too much. You just want to eat what is necessary for the body to be healthy, enjoy it to a certain extent, and move on with your day, because that's not the most important thing in life, is eating food. It's fun. It's enjoyable. The community is great around the table, but that's not what life is about. The food, the taste of food. So that's what we're doing here. And an important thing so those are kind of my ideas, but an important thing that Dr. Ralph Martin is going to talk about is that we need to understand that us growing in virtue is not from our own merits. We are participating, we are putting effort in, but everything that we're able to do in the positive direction comes from God, comes from grace. So when you're getting frustrated and you're trying to be patient, you're trying to be courageous, temperament. Oh my goodness, temperate. Wait. Anyway, we're gonna skip that. Courageous, just, and you're not hitting the mark. It's going to be about prayer. It's going to be about surrender to God, trusting God. It's not going to be about like gritting your teeth harder. You will have to grit, you will have to discipline yourself and mortify yourself, but that's not what it's about. Every positive comes from Jesus, it comes from God. So we have to remember that when we're doing that. But that's what detachment's for. So it's good to remember that. So when we're growing in freedom, detaching from other things, we also got to remember to grow in those positive things, those virtues. And the virtuous people are happier than the vice ridden. That is an important thing I want Catholics to know and tell non-Catholics and people that aren't virtuous. Don't call them that, probably. Is that happiness? And this is something that's not just Catholic. This was the philosophers too, the ancient Greeks. Aristotle talks about this. Happiness comes from the virtues, from your character, from your ability to have this disposition and this habit to do what is right and just. So that's all I have today on that. We're moving through the fulfillment of all desire. We're hopefully growing in holiness. We're praying. We're learning to trust God. We're detaching. We're still going. And if you're in the marriage vocation or if you're called to it, challenge me on that or agree with me and live a truly holy marriage. That's what I got for you. That's all for today. Please like, subscribe, comment, share the videos. Let me know what you think about the show. We're doing a little rebranding. Let me know what you think about that. That's all I got for you today. The hair looks better today. Still the big forehead, but it's looking good. Anyway, sorry. That was kind of besides the point. God bless you. God keep you. Like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you think. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye.